My name is Matthew Todd and welcome to Inside the Scale Up. This is the podcast for founders and executives in tech looking to make an impact and learn from their peers within the tech business. We lift the lid on tech businesses, interviewing leaders and following their journey from startup to scale up and beyond, covering everything from developing product market fit, funding and fundraising models to value proposition structure and growth marketing. We learn from their journey so that you can understand how they really work, the failures, the successes, the lessons along the way, so that you can take their learnings and apply them within your own startup or scale up and join the ever-growing list of high-growth UK SaaS businesses. Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. Really pleased today to be joined by Mihajlo Popesku from Qudo. Great to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's my pleasure to be here.
No worries. I'm looking forward to hearing a bit more about the AI-based startup that you're involved with, as well as a bit about your background that led you to that point. Do you want to kick things off by giving us a bit of a brief introduction to yourself, your background, and what it is that you are up to now?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, my profession is I'm a marketing scientist. I did my master's at PhD at the University of Nottingham, where I studied value co-creation, and I was applying some advanced quantitative technique to understand complexities about how consumers co-create value. And I always had this intention to join industry and bring the best from science and apply this scientific knowledge. And when I was doing my PhD and master studies, I had a lot of industry-related projects, and I really enjoyed those. And I was thinking, how could I have more of these projects without actually sacrificing too much of my time? Because as you know, as a consumer researcher, you are pretty much applied. It's essentially an agency model where you design a research, you go into field work, you collect the data, crunch the data, find insights, and then present some insights and recommendations to your client. And thinking back then, this was in 2014, 2015, I was thinking one of the most consuming parts of consumer research is actually me trying to understand one particular domain and then having to design a questionnaire or an instrument. And this was typically take me like a couple of weeks. Whereas the rest of the process, like, collecting the data and crunching the data and stuff like that, you had off-the-shelf software, and, this was pretty much fast once the data was in. Yeah. But that part before data coming in was very painful and tedious. So I was thinking, what is it I could do to boost my productivity? And back then I was thinking, if I had this tool that would generate questionnaires for me, or that would help me understand one particular domain, I could probably be way more productive and I could do much more. My income multiplier would increase significantly. So back then I was thinking, if I had this platform that would leverage crowd wisdom, or that would crowdsource questions, or that would bring pools of experts that would quickly suggest what are the questions that I have to ask to cover a domain, that would be quick. And one of the ideas was to have this question bank where experts would be depositing questions, and whenever, let's say, a recommendation engine leverages that question, the author gets a compensation. So in a way, your question or a battery of questions or a questionnaire becomes your asset that is generating you passive income. And I tried pitching this to the University of Nottingham back then, and this idea didn't land well. And a couple of years down the line, I was a university professor for a while, and then I joined Cambridge Analytica. I met a couple of interesting people there, and then later on we decided to do something of our own. And big ideas, converged. The idea of research being used for targeting and activation, and then the AI being used to automate questionnaire generation, cross-pollinated my original idea, and this is how we started Qudo.
Nice, sounds really interesting. And in terms of marketing insights and what you're trying to achieve then, why is that an advantage to your customers, to consumers as well? Why is that a better approach than the targeting that these ad platforms already provide?
If I may just add one thing. So my current research is specializing in understanding or discovering different audiences or segments within general population so that brands can better engage with them. And the way how we design our research in such a way to enable bridge between insights and activation. This means the way how we ask questions is allowing us to target people on social media without knowing anything personal about them, without knowing their phone numbers, emails, or names, surnames, etc. So we are looking at affinities. And then those affinities that are, let's say, very salient or specific to certain group are then used to build audiences in Facebook or Google so that you can serve certain content to a group that will resonate well. And that's the advantage. The existing model out there is if you want to understand different segments, your traditional research agencies will give you a report or a dashboard, but then there is nothing telling you how you actually bring this to life, how you actually speak to the group that was discovered by that particular research. And we give you a technology that is crossing that bridge in a GDPR compliant manner using zero-party data.
I see. That's really interesting. So, it is that gap, as you say, between that research to identify this is the audience, these are their interest behaviors and everything else that are going to resonate, and now you're bridging that gap, and this is how you then get in front of an audience that wants to hear your message.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more point, big companies who own loads of first-party data. First-party data is everything that company or a brand knows about you as an individual. We've seen recently, and major research companies such as Gartner report that companies knowing way too much about you is creeping the consumers. Like if you speak to someone and then you show that you know more than 3 or 4 pieces of personal information, this is way too creepy, and it deters customers and consumers from engaging with your brand. So we are giving brands something that is completely void of any first-party data, so you can speak to a group in such a way that you keep their privacy and yet show that you are familiar with their behaviors, preferences, and affinities.
I see. And that's, I certainly see a lot of people are put off by that degree of like over personalization, having access to data that, as a consumer, you didn't naturally expect them to have. And it's obviously based on tracking a lot of information and sharing of data, as well as that first party data. And I think, we've all had the case where we open up Facebook and all of a sudden something we were just talking to a friend about has suddenly appeared in our feed.
Yes. I mean, in psychology, that is that's called recency effect. Because if you talk about something that is important to you, you've been actively thinking about this particular topic, and you are then more prone to notice these things around you. And maybe you already did the research on that. So, those kind of stuff appearing on Facebook or Google, I wouldn't say they are necessarily listening to you. It is just that you currently, what you do, what you search for is actually indicating that your next thing that you're looking for is going to be suggested by those engines to you. I think the algorithms are very advanced right now. So, the algorithms can now almost already predict what's your next step going to be. So, and as I say, like, this is now creeping us out in a way, but in the same time, it gives some convenience of life. Makes looking for this new product that we're going to buy or things that we're going to download or watch, more easily accessible to us. So, it's not. I wouldn't paint necessarily this picture black. There is a shade of gray. Yes, I would say those platforms know way too much about us, but in the same time, they might simplify our life. But also there is again a negative effect that they might keep us in this like echo chamber, and feeding us the stuff that maybe are not necessarily good for us. So,
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely two sides to it. I think no one inherently minds being shown different types of content and adverts as well, as long as it genuinely does resonate with our interests. I think we'd all rather have that than something which is of completely no use or no value or of no interest to us whatsoever, right? So there's definitely two elements to it. But as you say, sometimes it can feel a little bit creepy, and that's where brands probably don't have the right impression.
Yes, definitely. And as I said, it's been noticed that companies knowing way too much about us is definitely creeping our consumers. So I would say hyper customization and hyper personalization is probably going to backfire and has already started backfiring at big brands.
And is there also an element as well of those third-party platforms, be it Facebook, Google, whoever, if they are the only way for you to identify and get in front of your audience, that for many brands and businesses, as they start to scale, there can be an over-reliance on those platforms, such that if for whatever reason their access to those suddenly is removed, or the algorithm there changes in some way, that actually they don't have any valuable insights of their own that they're able to leverage and make use of.
I would agree with you. I mean, obviously there is a risk of over-dependence on certain third-party platforms. But when we talk about Facebook and Google, these are currently, the biggest advertising platforms out there. Facebook, in our eyes, Facebook is not a social media. It's an advertising platform because this is their primary business model. Yeah. They're essentially making money by monetizing on their users. In a way, we as Facebook users, we don't pay for using the platform, but yet the company has to live off something, and this is actually selling us to brands so that we are those audiences on which they monetize. I think this is well known. This is like a commonplace. Speaking of that, the way how we are building platform to start with Facebook and Google. The integration with them is important to us because, as I said, you can tap into the biggest audiences. Of course, there is a threat of having certain audiences being like over-targeted or oversaturated by certain, advertisements. But in the same time, we are working hard to become channel-agnostic platform so that you can serve a certain message to relevant audiences in the channel that is relevant to them. We've seen now the rise of TikTok. You have so many other platforms. If you want to talk to, let's say, business audiences, you have LinkedIn. If you want to talk to audiences who are, for example, more into debating with others, you have, for example, platforms such as Quora, or platforms, for example, such as Reddit. But these are more of niche platforms. So in a way, we want to become channel agnostic, and Facebook and Google for us were like the logical first steps in validating the product.
Yeah, and I can see why that makes a lot of sense from how you approach that initial validation, and then your vision for being channel agnostic as well. So when it came to Qudo, then to launching that, to proving out the concept behind it, what did that early journey look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. We are still currently in some kind of stealth or semi-stealth mode. And for us to validate the effects or the impact of our product or the value that we are delivering, we had a number of closed beta users. We had users from banking, some loyalty cards, some leisure and travel brands. Yeah. And one of the things that we did, for example, for a bank, one major Central European bank was launching a online instant cash loan, and they wanted to test how would a platform like Qudo perform against their traditional way of doing, let's say, social media engagement and conversion. And what happened is, in parallel, we ran two studies. One study was informed by our research, our segmentation, and our targeting criteria. And other study was their, I would say, catch-all or blanket campaign. And when we compared after a month of running those both campaigns in parallel, their campaign had conversion of 25%, and our campaign had almost three times better results. So we managed to convert 72 out of 100 loan applicants, which means we managed to get way more people being approved for a loan. Other marketing performance, such as clicks per page, cost per click, etc. We've seen a sea of green, and typically those other marketing KPIs were between 50 and 500% above and beyond what they had. So in that respect, the product was validated. We have a number of other case studies where we've shown that, like, if you really understand your audiences, if you understand what are their needs, how to speak to them, and what are their affinities, then you can definitely outperform any guesswork that marketers typically tend to resort to when they have no data.
Yeah. So you're able to improve those typical marketing metrics, the costs per click and the cost to get that lead prospect data, but then you're also able to optimize from the actual sales side as well. As you say, if you're getting a much higher percentage of those loans applications approved, then that's got to be a big operational efficiency for them as well, hasn't it?
I mean, we managed to improve the key metric, and that's ROAS, or return on advertisement spending. Yes.
And in terms of the customers that you've worked with so far, then is that a very similar kind of campaign-based model that you work on?
Currently, so we work typically, I mean, our target markets are UK and USA, and we work with commercial entities or consumer brands. But our clients are coming from different parts of the world. We have, clients from Eastern Europe, from the UK, from North Africa, again, different commercial entities. And our stepping stone into the market will be two studies. We will do financial services study in the UK and USA, and we are going to do a general consumer study or a general consumer profiling in both UK and USA. And for the next 6 to 12 months, we are planning, once we launch, and we're going to launch by the end of this year, we are planning to approach the market with a freemium model where everybody and anybody will be able to see the segments and then use those segments for activation. And then we're going to listen to our communities, see what was well received and what was liked in our product, what was not so liked, and then we're going to improve, refine, and in one of our next iterations that we're going to see like what kind of additional features can then be paid for. But essentially, this first version coming to the market will be freemium.
I see. And for that, more general consumer use case, then there must be, a massive amount of analysis you have to be running in order to enable something like this.
Yeah, definitely. We plan to run a large representative samples, collect large representative samples every quarter. I'm talking about 4,000 respondents in UK and USA respectively. And we're going to try to understand different things about how people in general approach consumption. What's their relationship with brands, with spending? What's their mindset in general? How they make decisions about certain purchase, what they value in different companies, brands, and offers. So then we can give you like generic top level segments. We're talking approximately about between 7 and 10 segments, and we are going to follow important trends such as well-being or sustainable consumption, privacy, consumer rights. So to see how people perceive all these important aspects of their life, so that once we come up and once we bring to life those segment personas, different brands will then be able to select and say, okay, well, out of these 10 segments, I think those 2 or 3 are relevant, so I can then use Qudo to engage with those audiences and maybe build awareness about my brand or build sales, etc., etc.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I can see how you can use that kind of affinity information to better get in front of the customers that are likely to buy into your brand and brand values, as well as want and need the product that you've got to offer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is very important to understand consumers' lifestyles, their mindsets, their affinities, because affinity is a nice targeting and handy targeting criteria that is offered by both Facebook and Google. And this is what essentially we are arguing. You don't have to know first-party consumer data to approach certain relevant audiences. You need to understand affinities of certain groups so that you can, engage with them in a, GDPR compliant manner where, there is I would say a clean handshake, no one's data is involved. This is just like a broad level understanding of how different groups approach consumption, how they go about engaging with brands, what is important in their lives and what are their affinities. So yes, there is alternative essentially to using first-party data, and we hope to be champions of that new philosophy.
Absolutely. I think restrictions are only going to get tougher, and I think with different blocking mechanisms in browsers and everything else, I think people are trying to limit so much of that exposure of the personal identifiable data. And I think, as you said before, I think consumers are starting to push back a little bit against that as well, and realize how much personal information some of these platforms really do have.
I mean, the truth is, first-party data, it always belongs to consumer. It doesn't belong to a company. And many companies, despite the fact that it belongs to consumer, they are monetizing on that data, not passing any of that value down to the consumer. Our philosophy is the following. All our data is coming from anonymous surveys. We incentivize people. Whatever they say in the survey was shared with us on a voluntary basis. We have very clear terms and conditions. We explain how the survey is going to be used. And as I said, everything is voluntary. We ask no personal information. We just ask about your lifestyle, your views of the world, your attitudes, and we use that to build. And we also ask about your past behavior, and then we use that to build different consumer groups that are then used by brands to engage with audiences who look like you, not necessarily you personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really important difference. And from what you're describing, it certainly sounds like what you're trying to build with Qudo is a very, very different type of marketing technology than is currently available.
Yeah, I would say more than that. We are advocating a new philosophy, as I said, zero-party data, everything GDPR compliant, your privacy is protected. We don't go and then merge the data set that we have with something else that someone else might have. And this is very common now in the industry. When we speak to different technology providers, we see, they buy your financial data, they buy your, past voting behaviors and they start cross-pollinating all these data sets. With us, we just take the data that we ask you from the survey. We don't know who you are. We can't merge anything of these insights with any of your private data. So for us, the philosophy is keep privacy protected, okay? And second thing is deliver value to both brands and consumers by essentially helping be advocate of the consumers and their shifting needs, and also help brands to engage to the relevant audiences where they can cater to certain need or fix certain problem, okay? So I think our philosophy is actually being translated into this new piece of technology, and we call Qudo Precision Activation Engine, and we believe we are building a first of kind product that is going to be launched by the end of this year.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. That I can see, how that philosophy, is embedded through everything that you've just described about the way the product works, and as well as the way that you say you're hoping to take it forward, as well, opening it up to more general consumers. And in terms of how far Qudo has come then from that starting point, I'd love to hear what some of the challenges are that you've experienced when trying to build something, which is very, very new and very, very different to what exists at the moment.
So, Matt, to be very frank with you, our challenge was not in how we build technology. Our key challenge was finding the right talents. Building the team here in London, where we have like a cutthroat competition, was a very, very difficult task. I mean, we really take pride at the fact that we are an organization that has like a very good well-being program, and our people are engaged and happy. But when you are a startup that has very little on your website, it is difficult to attract the right talents. And even though we offer like good package and our people are super happy, Just like it's super difficult to find the right engineers, super difficult to find the right data scientists, super difficult to find the right social scientists. So it took us way more than what we anticipated. And Brexit didn't help, by the way, because like we've seen that there is like a limited supply of good talent here in London. So that was one challenge. The second challenge is, our vision was way too broad and very ambitious. So like prioritizing what you build first. So for example, because I'm a researcher, I wanted to build this survey hosting platform that had artificial intelligence, questionnaire design embedded. But then my marketeers, they said like, actually, let's rely on the third-party solution and then let's build everything else. Let's streamline, let's automate the analysis, and let's build this bridge between insight and activation. Let's do something lighter that we can go to the market faster with, and then we can validate. And then if it works, then we're going to then look at the deep tech and build all the AI and stuff like that. So for now, we decided to build that bridge between insight and activation, and it seems to be working well. But going forward, we are going to minimize our technological dependencies on third-party platforms such as survey hosting platforms or panel aggregators, etc., etc.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see how it could be difficult to find that kind of talent, as well as navigate that decision of what it is that you're building and the order to build that in as well, because what you're talking about is it's not an insignificant problem that you're trying to solve, right? It's a pretty complex problem that needs quite a lot of data. So I imagine the roadmap for what you want to build could be massive.
Oh yeah, by all means. Like our idea is to have the full marketing communications value chain streamlined and automated. When I say marketing communications value chain, I'm talking about those communications powered by data, and we're talking about research data, survey data. In that respect, if you are starting from research, you need survey hosting platform, you need an algorithm that is able to generate questionnaires based on certain brief. I mean, the ultimate idea for us is to have this SaaS and to give it to your average marketeer or your average researcher so that they can leverage value from that. And in a way, the idea for us is to minimize the pressures on experts. When I say experts, for example, research expert, data scientist, and digital marketeer. And we want to, like, as I said, streamline and stitch all these processes together, like expert quality research, expert quality data science and analytics, and expert quality digital marketing and activation. Currently, if you are a marketeer and if you want to engage in data-driven digital activation, you have to play with a number of tools or a number of themes. And this is a massive complexity and a massive headache. And no one has time to do that. But if you have a piece of software, in a way, an ecosystem that is essentially helping you to seamlessly progress from research to analysis, from analysis to activation, you have then, first of all, synergetic effect. You're not losing any signal between important steps in the chain. And finally, it gives you a great convenience. You can conduct your piece of research, you can see your audiences, and then based on the audiences that are matching your brand or matching your mission, you can then go straight to activation. You can export those audiences with a single click, and they will be formed in your social media channels, and then you're ready to serve them the content that you want to serve. So in a way, we are really making life easier for marketeers. But in the future, our product will also look at researchers such as myself, because this product can not only be used for digital activation. Our idea is for this product to also be used in social research, for instances where you want to do something in an agile manner, where you need a quick survey design. Our algorithm will be able to generate a questionnaire for your given brief. And then instead of spending weeks polishing the questionnaire, you will maybe spend a day, finalizing that draft that the AI has generated for you. So that's in the principle a vision.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting vision. And I think if you compare it to, a lot of the different surveying tools and things that are out there at the moment, it's a massive step forward, but it seems that it is, as you say, kind of allowing people to get access to that kind of information gathering without needing that team of experts behind them, so that brands that might not have otherwise had access to this type of technology can then start to better find and engage with their audiences as well, not just when they get to that, massive scale where they've got the resources to do that.
Yeah, I mean, our vision and our philosophy is to democratize this technology. We want to enable the best-in-class research and digital activation to small and medium enterprises. We, as I said, we are starting with freemium. Small brands will be able to take advantage of this technology. So the first piece of technology that we build is what we call precision activation engine. So this is essentially helping us to bring insights to life. When I say bring insights to life, bring insights to action. Our platform currently can provide segmentation, and then you can export desired segments to either Facebook and Google, and then have your audiences formed and ready for activation. So that's one thing. And then second to that, we want to build an agile research engine. Agile research engine is something that only resembles survey hosting platforms, where everything is, do it yourself kind of thing. We want to build two things together with a survey hosting platform. One is a question bank that is going to be populated by a crowd of experts. And those questions will essentially be property of experts. And every time our algorithm or our recommendation engine uses your question or questionnaire, you will be remunerated. So in a way, your question or questionnaire is your asset and a source of passive income. And then second to that, we want to build an AI that will help users of our platform generate questionnaires in a minute, bespoke questionnaires in a minute. We don't think about having, let's say, having some kind of templates that you can reuse. We believe that every customer has a unique problem, and then specific to that problem, to that brand, domain, industry, country, the algorithm should be able to suggest an optimal sequence of questions so that your entire problem domain is covered, and so that you have your research questions answered in a way, in a full way, an appropriate way. So our next step is definitely building that agile insight engine. But before that, we want to validate precision activation engine. We want to see how it performs, fine tune that. And if there is an appetite, then we are going to proceed to this agile research engine. So yeah, these are the plans for the next couple of years, long story short.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really interesting. I can definitely see how it really is an innovative technology in that space. And when it comes to bringing more users onto your platform, then how are you approaching your own growth and marketing as well?
Yeah, this is a good thing. So we recently started our sales and marketing team, but then speaking within the team, we realized that the product-led growth is probably the best way ahead. We want our product to market itself, and as I said, we want to give everything that we build and everything that we've built so far on a freemium basis, so that users can have a go at it, see how it works, and if they see any value in it. So that would be most important. And then later on, once we progress to, let's say, paid versions of our engine, we're maybe thinking about charging a cut of marketing spend that our clients will be spending, using Qudo, or maybe having some additional features that will be charged. But in the short to medium term, as I said, we're thinking about freemium model and letting the product market itself.
Yeah, I see. And so you're essentially, being able to use those very, very large clients that you've got in financial services and other areas to allow you to build, prove out, and monetize what you're doing so far, but then leverage what you've proven there to build this bigger scale product coming out of that development. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So yeah, one side of our business is SaaS, but we also have a services part of our business, where if client wants something bespoke, then we can do something tailored for them. But if we're talking about the SaaS business, yes, definitely looking at freemium and product-led growth and then building on that.
Yeah, I see. That makes a lot of sense. So, no, thank you for sharing that. I think it's been really, really interesting talking this morning. And I know we had a couple of internet connection issues, but hopefully they weren't too bad. But it's been interesting finding out, about the kind of marketing science approach, some of the limitations and where you're looking to innovate and push boundaries, as well as some of those trust issues and issues with first-party data as well. I think it's really, really interesting. And just to wrap things up then, for our audience of entrepreneurs, startups, scale-up founders themselves, is there any advice you would give them, either in terms of building a business or in terms of their own marketing?
Yes, definitely. I think I would say, don't keep ideas close to your chest. Share your ideas with people early on. Let them, critique your ideas. Let them question your ideas. Find good sparring partners. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And second thing, keep your mind open and be ready to change your direction. Things are shifting fast, especially in technology. Markets are shifting fast. You have so many disruptions happening, not necessarily in technology, but also in wider like socioeconomic and political space. So, and you have to stay vigilant and flexible. So, don't hold to your roadmap like a Bible, like a gospel. Be ready to change the direction, refine the direction. If you see that something, if you see like compelling reasons to do so. And as I said, share your ideas. Let people, compliment you, let people, give you their peace of mind. But at the end of the day, if you are an entrepreneur, you have to make calls by yourself. So yeah, that would be my advice.
No, fantastic. Thank you. I think that's really, really good advice that anyone should pay attention to. And yeah, thank you again for sharing that journey so far with us this morning. And I definitely look forward to both seeing the consumer version of the platform when you're opening up that freemium model. I'll certainly be looking out for that, and yeah, wish you the best of luck in that growth journey.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Inside the Scale Up. Remember, for the show notes and in-depth resources from today's guest, you can find these on the website insidethescaleup.com. You can also leave feedback on today's episode, as well as suggest guests and companies you'd like to hear from. Thank you for listening.